Evening, one and all. I say evening. This piece is rather addictive. I think Christian might have kind of given me a bit of a clue when he was talking earlier on about saying how it's kind of something to do in the current climate. But wow, this piece is like it's I should be in bed. It's getting on for 10:30. Yeah, it's insane. Wow, what can I say? I've got 100 and odd tracks, 109 tracks, 107 tracks, I don't know, 106 tracks that are still to come. It goes from very quiet at the beginning to very loud at the end. My God, I'm going to keep playing with it. I've got some more bits to come from Christian tomorrow. I can't wait.
Good morning, and for those of you who haven't the foggiest of what we're doing here, have a look at the film above. Basically, the idea is to create the world's biggest piece of systems music. One key, D Dorian, one chord sequence, 88 BPM, start at bar 5, end at bar 88, and this is going to be premiered on the Spitfire audio channel 1700 hours GMT this Saturday the 28th of March, followed straight away by a more in-depth video into how we went about making this back on this channel. So subscribe and ring the bell on both this channel and the Spitfire audio channel so that you can join in with us on the day. I'll be live on chat whilst the video is running. Right, basically delivered a bunch of stuff to Jake yesterday, which I believe will be going well. Jake and I have worked with each other for, I'd say, 15 years now, so we have a shorthand, all of that kind of stuff. Headline points, you'll see immediately, particularly if we go down to these bottom uninvestigated stacks, that I have actually changed the structure of the piece. The piano comes in right on bar 1 now, so we're not coming in on bar 5, going out on bar 88 anymore. I just felt in order to cram everything in, I just needed just a little bit more space. And also there are some aspects to my arrangement which didn't feel particularly square, and when you put the mighty masses on it, it became very obvious that it wasn't square, as in kind of groups of 4 bars or multiples thereof. So I've sent off a large number of what I've referred to as motors and counterpoint sections to Jake. So as I mentioned before, with these contrapuntal beds, I didn't want them just to be this kind of sea of sound. I wanted them to be more like a pod of dolphins, you know, with ones occasionally coming to the surface and the odd dolphin kind of sneezing out of its brain mouth. Here are our kind of dolphin moments here, with the various different pianos having their moments. I had particular fun with the synth stem where this is coming, just specific. They don't have the complexity and the bandwidth of, say, the pianos. The synths particularly took to this kind of treatment very well. So let's just have a listen to this opening bit, and so you can hear what I've been up to, and then I gradually fade out into these different parts here. It's not as clear to see when they've been bounced in place, but these different vignettes, if you will, so that we really give everything its moment. And then when we get to the end, it's just literally the mother of all rinses. Fade out there. Now, I have to say that this is my new favourite sound. What is so unique about this is that everyone's pianos, they're not all perfectly tuned in a concert hall. They're not all the same piano, and you know, they all have different temperances, all of that kind of stuff. So this sound, just a bunch of pianos playing the same chords, just that sounds stunning. just something incredibly, I make a real moment of this later, and it's just lovely, that thing when just once in a while in this business where you go, that is unique. That may not have happened thus far. Other areas, I wanted to concentrate on the bass. So what I've honed it down to, and unfortunately this is possibly where the most casualties will occur in the sense of how many basses can you have simultaneously. There's a massive kind of mud flap over there, but here we've basically boiled it down to 3 bass players. Jennifer, who's aged 10, absolutely stunning work on this. I think you're the youngest stranger, and I thank you for your contribution. And then we're coupling it with Mike Watts. And this clean electric bass, which is nice because it's a different octave to the other two. So we've got the harmonics off Mike, we've got the fat bottom end off Jennifer, and the ocean electric bass. The only problem with everyone's bass parts is no one gave me a real chug. It's amazing how you can get like 400 odd tracks and they're just the one thing that you need. So I programmed a synth bass just as a real anchor point. You'll hear particularly with this insane bit here where we have this carousel of tracks, it becomes a real anchor point. So a lot of bottom end, and you can really kind of hear it above the bottom, and it's really super fat on these sustain notes here. So it's great. So we have an audible something in the upper regions, and then it just sits under like that. And I'm not embarrassed. I just used one of the Logic ones. What was it? Yeah, ES1, old school bass, and did a little bit of filtering around and stuff. Right, another thing I'd like to just quickly focus in on before I crack on are the rhythm tracks. Now, yesterday they sounded a bit like this. So what I did is I found the bits that I wanted, and then within the bits that I wanted, I found strong bars for every track, and I've used every single track of untuned percussion that is regular and rhythmic. You can see that I've gone in there and chopped stuff up so it's nice and tight. And I think what's great about it is it's gone from being a slightly wayward setup, because just loads of different players playing in different places with different grooves, to a really solid anchor point, which is really helpful in the rinse later, where it is just like we unleash the doors of Hades, and there's this kind of the bass, boom, 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 and these drums are a real kind of anchor point, that kind of a lifeboat to cling to whilst all hell is entering into your brain and scooping it out through your earlobes. And then we have the slightly more rinsed one where there's a really fat drum beat in there. What's on the agenda today? Well, basically, I've got this orchestral thing here. Let's just have a quick listen to that. So, yeah, Orc Live. Now, that isn't Orc Live. It's basically just a whole bunch of people playing orchestral style instruments. And it has this amazing kind of, it sounds like Penguin Cafe Orchestra on acid, or the Polyphonic Spree on more acid. And so there's a combination of beddy stuff in there and kind of lead improvisational lines. And what I want to do, just certainly for this bit here, is to give everything its moment. There's particularly a beautiful flugelhorn. lovely dissonant incidentals there and beautifully recorded. So that's the first order of the day. And then basically a lot of the track is still beds. And what I'm going to do is go in to these different sections here and eke out melodic moments, incidental effects. There's certainly some whooshes and bangs in there somewhere that I want to pull out to make this piece even more dramatic than it is. Right, but first, a little slurp of tea. Right, so that's me now done on the production component. So that's been about 2.5 days of work, and here she is. Where you see these long ones, these are basically those tracks bounced in place. These you can see I've just bounced as a single stereo WAV. And we've got our rhythms there. This is all the stuff you saw earlier. And then we moved into our more kind of pointillism, which is we've got this piano cascade here, and then all of these tiny little kind of points, bits of pointillism. I don't know if they call it probably just little points. And they really do add a special kind of magic to this track. And you can see that I think without exception, maybe 1 or 2 problematic tracks, but that's probably the maximum. I've used every single track of the 381 that have been. Correction, I've used something from every single person who has submitted to this extraordinary, I don't know, social experiment. I can't wait for you to hear it on Saturday, because I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised and incredibly proud of yourselves. So, little points of interest. None of you had done like a shaker part, and my friends at Signal Sound did a really particularly perplexing rhythm track that basically was somewhat free with its sense of meter. However, I couldn't get it into groove, but it did have some very useful bright elements. So I made a shakery hi-hatty part out of that, combined with this using a bicycle as some percussion. And thanks for those of you who heeded to my shout out for risers and big booms and stuff. There's one that's just absolutely enormous here. Yeah, bit of tone matrix stuff there. Jake is now in the thick of it with his mixes. I've basically, all of this pointillistic stuff I've actually outputted with reverbs and delays. So I've got esoteric pylons. So remember I mentioned we have these rolling landscapes. I'm going to put electricity pylons on them. Guitar, I've got those new scratchy loops that you just heard there. Piano pylons, synth pylons, tune perk and untuned perk. And I've basically done them with reverbs and delays because I've set it just how I like it. The decays are all how they should be. There's an amazing church organ bit, I think. Is it here? Is it there? So put a bit of delay and reverb on that just to keep that going so it doesn't suddenly stop. But those are the pylons, and well, what remains to be seen is what we premiere on Saturday. Now, my next job is to, because I don't have any help up here at the moment other than Kellen, who helped me just basically rip all this stuff. The next 2 days, I'm going to be putting together the premiere video, but also a deep dive, a nerdy video for us to watch straight after the premiere. So the premiere is at 1700 hours GMT, Saturday, 28th of March on the Spitfire main channel, which is linked below. And then I'm going to be straight back here as soon as that premiere's over, this will be live, a big geeky deep dive. I'm going to be hanging out for a beer with Jake this afternoon, so stick around for that, and maybe we may have another couple of beers over the next couple of days. But basically, my work within the context of your music is now done. Now it's about getting your faces and instruments onto camera.